Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, Q Macro, DJ. Just get a drink of water. Yeah, I mean, we're starting on time, but I just had a little bit of a panic. I overfilled my AeroPress to make my coffee for this particular episode, and it all went over the place. And I was like, oh man, no. So yeah, slightly not panicked, but like, what? I don't need this right now. So anyway. Have some water. There's my coffee over there in my OAuth at 8 a.m. mug. So welcome. Thanks for joining everybody. Helmut, good morning to Hanover. Good morning everybody else as well. And we're in for another exciting episode on the quote-unquote getting the most out of the SAP TechEd Developer Keynote repository series. So there we go. So what's new? I've got one of these Stroop waffles on my OAuth at 8 a.m. mug here. I've got a slightly different coffee because I ran out of the Miriam Perry's Natural from Heart and Craft down the road. I'll go and get some more. Good morning, Leo. Good morning, Leo. Good morning, Pankaj. Good morning to you, sir. How are you this morning? Thank you for your message last night on Twitter. Yesterday. It was very nice to see that you're looking forward to it. And you're always welcome, of course, as is everybody else. Patrick, good morning. Good morning to you as well. So, yeah, let's get into it. Rather than me waffle on, Stroop waffle on. Is that getting a bit too melty? No, it's okay. Still fairly solid. But don't let me forget. So, where are we? We are in the fourth. Well, let's have a quick look. Let me move to the main scene. And here's our TechEd 2020 Developer Keynote. What we're going to be covering today is the emitter. Make it a little bit bigger. Is the emitter component. Okay. Let me just go to orientate ourselves where we are. We're going to just go to the quick start, and as you can see in the quick start, we're working through these steps here. I've got more steps to add. Of course, we've got the charity component and also the UI component, but we'll add those in a bit. So today is the emitter component. And in fact, I don't know whether any of those who sort of liked on the Twitter perspective this tweet, I've got this tweet here that I put here to remind myself, where is it? We covered in the previous one, yes, when we were setting up the sandbox component here, we did it in two parts, part one and part two. Actually, let me go to SAP Devs. And here, oh, there we go, live. Hi, Mum. We've got our getting the most out of the SAP TechEd Developer Keynote repository, and oh, there's me drinking coffee. How weird. We did this sandbox in two parts. We did the first part, and then the second part where we covered a little bit of the Cloud Foundry and a lot of the Kubernetes schema, where we built Docker images and pushed those to the GitHub Docker registry, from where we then pull those images into Kima, right? And we used GitHub Actions to do that. And a lot of people have been asking me sort of, independently of this particular thing, but also here about GitHub Actions and about GitHub in general, but I mean specifically about GitHub Actions. And I think it was Tanmoy, you took up the challenge. Hey, Kadia, good morning. Good morning. You took up the challenge of tweeting about GitHub Actions and asking for a session, and we got 16 likes on the retweet of that and 7 retweets. So I think we should do one. So let me know in the chat right now. Howdy, Robert Dino. Howdy, welcome, old friend to the show, Hands on SAP Dev show. One of the very early show family members, Robert Dino. Good morning to Mark Teichmann as well. I'm just going to have a bite. That's very soft. Have a bite of my Stroop waffle. So, what say we do next week's episode, next Friday's episode, on GitHub Actions? We'll dig in a little bit more. I've used a number of GitHub Actions. In here, you'll see that there's a couple. I'm messing around with the .app.git XML file in conjunction with Rich Heilman. We've got the one we looked at last week. We can dig in a bit more to that. And I've got another one as well. And I've got actions all over the place. So yeah, let's do that. Samuele, good morning, buongiorno. Good morning. That was very Italian, wasn't it? Well, maybe, I don't know. So yeah, let's do one. Let me know what you think in the chat. Right, okay. So that's that. That's the actions. There's Tanmoy's thing. There we go. So we are here. Set up and use the emitter component. Now, do you remember what the emitter component was or is? The emitter component is this thing here. And basically, if we are to, if we wanted to point to what the emitter component was as a thing, it's basically a shell script. It's a bash shell script. We're going to go through that and we're going to look what it does. Ahoy, Edgar! Ahoy! Good greeting. That's a great greeting. Edgar, ahoy to you too. And Leo says, yes, would be great to learn about GitHub Actions. Okay, we're on. Helmut, GitHub Actions would be great. Okay, perfect. Thank you for confirming that. We'll do that next week. The coffee's quite nice. I was a little bit worried about this coffee because last time I had it was a bit strong. But that's probably me. That's nice, that. Yeah, it's some that Michelle bought me for Christmas. So we'll do that next week. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm really taken by the ahoy. Ahoy. When is Pirates Day, by the way? Not that that's a pirate thing, but when is Pirates Day? Speak like a pirate. So we're going to dive into this now. And there's actually not much to it. So it'll allow us to spend the hour digging into as much as we can and maybe doing some digressions as normal. So there we go. Where we left off is we've got our SAP Business Application Studio, Business App Studio. We got our dev space, it's still the same. We got our, let me make that a little bit. In fact, let me just, what I did, I think the reason the zoom is, it is 110%. Okay, we'll leave that there. Okay, we'll leave that. We'll leave that. That's fine. So let's open up a terminal and let's start. So basically, let's start working through the emitter component, but just let's see what it does. The emitter component, the whole point is that it publishes the sales order created message. Okay, now the sales order created message is a message, or sometimes I call it a message event, sometimes I call it an event message. It's a message that, is put onto and transported by and distributed by the message bus, right? That's this arrow here. That's our wonderful SAP Enterprise Messaging Service instance, which we've already got. Git Actions, wow, thank you for all your time. Thank you for joining us. I mean, this, you folks make the stream. I just sit here and talk. So yeah, let's do that then next Friday. Perfect. So this publishes a sales order created action. Now, does anybody remember what this action message looks like? We can have a look at it in a minute, but let me know in the chat where we would find this. Okay, I've just noticed actually, I read through this README this morning, and I'm thinking, oh, there isn't a link. I didn't put a link to the where I'm thinking of in my mind in the API hub, in the SAP API Business Hub. But we did look at that actually in the developer keynote itself. So what we're doing here is we're simulating the S/4HANA cloud system, and we're simulating basically the back end of a new sales order being created, and that itself internally, automatically, by default, built in, generates this sales order created message. So we're going to do that ourselves manually and throw a message onto the event bus, onto the message bus. Okay. Now, we haven't covered the brain component yet. We'll do that after the GitHub Actions, but the brain component is the component that also connects to the message bus and listens out for such sales order created messages. Okay. So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to see if we can see the messages once we publish them. Okay, using standard tools that we've done before. If you've joined some previous episodes on Hands-on SAP Dev about messaging, you'll know what we're talking about. We've got the messaging API and we've got the management API. Both APIs belong to the Enterprise Messaging Service. I'm going to do that. Okay. Helmut is saying to Samuele, when I see you here, I remember my great holidays in Como. Ah, excellent. Yes. Well, super international around here. It's really good. So, okay. So the emitter can be found in the S/4HANA event directory of this repository. Okay, and this component starts off the whole flow by emitting an event message. There we go. There's me calling it an event message to the sales order created topic on the instance of the enterprise messaging service. Now, does everybody remember the difference between a topic and a queue? Just a quick recap in enterprise messaging terms. A queue is, in my mind, I sort of see the queue as almost physical. It's where messages sort of get queued up, right? It's where messages get queued up. And topics are more ephemeral, more sort of theoretical. And basically, you can publish a message to a queue, say, go to that queue. Or you can publish a message to that topic, be related to that topic. But in order to receive a message published to a topic, you have to get it to go through a queue to come to you, okay? So the whole idea is that you can publish a message to a queue, or you can publish a message to a topic. We're going to be publishing these messages to a topic, to the sales order created topic. And in order to consume those messages, we, or the recipient, has to create a queue and subscribe that queue to the topic to say, please put any messages emitted to that topic into this queue so I can suck them down into myself. Okay? So there we go. That's what we're going to do. So this whole thing is a single bash shell script called emit, which we'll have a look at. But that is also supported by two helper libraries. We got the settings, which you've seen before. Those are basically just, values for constants, the name of the messaging instance and so on. We'll look at that. And as it says here as well, because we use the settings and those constants in other parts of this repo, it actually lives higher up than we think it is, and it's just a symbolic link. And we've got some local utils for logging, going to get an access token from an OAuth perspective, and so on. Okay, and it says the emitter component uses the message API. Okay, so this live stream isn't about reading through documentation together, but I just wanted to sort of land this, appropriately. So let's have a look. Okay, we'll close that for now. We're going to be living in the event directory today. And we've got that's the README that we've just been looking at. We've got a settings.sh, which actually I'm not sure whether you can see that whether I can see that in the icon itself. That's actually in fact, why don't we do this, right? So we go here and we're here. Let's go into S4 events, and we can see that the settings.sh file is actually a pointer to message bus settings, which is higher up. It's up here. Where is it? Can you really see it? Up. There, message bus settings, okay? So there is message bus settings, okay? And it's shared by multiple things. In the message bus directory here, we've got the service set up, and that also has a settings. If we go into message bus, we can also see that the settings, it also uses a settings.sh, which points to the same thing. It's only up one in this case, .. not .. Okay, so it's the same thing. So we go back into the S4 HANA event, and we've got our local utils, which we'll look at shortly. Okay, so the settings is basically, the service is this, the plan is this, the instance name is this, and the service key that we create is SK1, service key 1, right? We've seen it before. The local utils, let's get out of here. I'm using this in also the other repo. I've got another repo that we used when we covered the enterprise messaging before, cloud-messaging-handsonsapdev. So that's a repo here, which some of you have seen before. We're going to be using this shortly to get access to the messaging and the management scripts, which allow us to interact from a command line with the messaging and management APIs, respectively. Hey, Sam Welly, there's you there. Woohoo! Excellent, because, of course, you contributed something. Da-da-da! Nice. Okay, so that's that. So let's go back. Let's just briefly have a look. By the way, if you're wondering why the emit script doesn't have .sh, but the local utils does and the settings does, it's because I'm following the Google shell style guide. Let me just share that actually. Really, really interesting. And it's really helped me make decisions easily about how I want to structure my things. So basically, with the repos that we're using here, hey, you're not late, Ivona. Good morning and welcome, 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 welcome. Nobody's ever late for these live streams, you know, as long as you join at some stage, that's cool. The idea is that something that you would run manually doesn't have .sh because, you know, you run executables, they don't have endings, they don't have extensions like, you know, cat or, you know, tail. It's not tail.c or it's tail.whatever. So you can tell it's a runnable thing by the fact that it doesn't have an .sh, and also by the fact that S4HANA event, it's got the executable bit set, as opposed to libraries that are just sourced. Okay, so if we have a look at the emit, we are sourcing the settings library, quote unquote library, and the local utils library. So I'm denoting that they're libraries by saying, well, these are .sh, shell, even though it's bash, but it's sh, right? And also these do not have the executable bit set there. And where is it? Oh, there, right up there. So you can't run local utils.sh. Okay, but you can source it into your executable. Okay, that's the general idea. Does that make sense? Okay, and what this does, this emit, let's just run down to the bottom here, and let's just stare at this for a second. All this does is define a variable called topic, and the variable is sales order created. Okay, so that's the name of the topic in enterprise messaging. Can anybody tell me what this %2f is here and why we've got it? Have a think about that. We have covered this before, I think, but have a think about that. I could have done it slightly differently, but I want to keep things simple here. And the emit script itself expects a sales order number to be provided as the first and only argument to it. So emit 1, emit 2, emit 3. And this number is the number of the sales order in the S4HANA system, effectively, that's just been created. Okay, so that's what would normally be emitted. You know, the event message would be emitted by S4HANA Cloud, and the event payload would include the sales order number, of course, right? Obviously. So we just say, we haven't got a sales order number. If it's not been set, then, you know, no, give me a sales order number. So then all we do, of course, is we want to make a call. Okay, we want to make a call to the messaging API, okay, to send that message, which we'll look at shortly, to that topic. Publish message to topic, to the topic, and what's the message? We've covered this before, so I'll just briefly look at this, okay? Get service key is, where is it? Get service key is a function that I've defined in the local utils to go and ask for a service key. And what we're doing is we're basically caching the service key in a local file called sk-instance name emdev-service key name, which is sk1 in our case, .json. Okay, so we're not hammering the Cloud Foundry endpoint all the time to say, give me, for every call we want a new service key. There's no point, right? We'll just look at the existing service key. Leo, good one. Yes, that's the URL encoding for a /. And why are we doing? Does anybody know why we're a soft stroopwafel? Oh, is that sacrilege, Patrick? Well, it's not soft. It's gone a bit hard again now. But I thought that was the thing to do. Okay, well, it's hard again now. Put it on the coffee to sort of force you to tell me why it's sacrilege. Oh my goodness me! I thought that was the done thing. So let me know. Leo, can you tell me, or anybody, why we need to URL encode it? Why we need to URL encode the / in sales order created? Okay. So while we're waiting for the delay, this live stream delay, So we go and grab the OAuth information from all this. We've covered this before in a previous live stream. And we get the token. Basically, we get the bearer token that we can then use to authenticate the call to the actual messaging API. Okay. So if we have a look at just brief look at the functions, we don't need to, look in detail at the publish message to topic. Okay. There's publish message. Okay. And what we're doing is we're using the bearer token in an authorization header in a regular HTTP request, because of course we're using messaging REST. We're using the REST protocol. Well, the REST protocol. Did I actually say that out loud? We're using HTTP rather than MQP or MQTT because we're doing it from the command line to interact with the APIs, to interact with the message bus. And the URI, all right, the URI, the base path is messaging REST v1. In fact, if we have a look here at the messaging API, what we are doing here is we're going to use this API call, post to messaging REST v1 topics, topic name, messages. Oh, so Robert Dino says, you want some street waffles too. Sorry, Leo, I've only got them here, so you have to come to Manchester. 1909, I believe. 1909, that reminds me of the new ABAP version that we've all got available to us now. Is that what you're talking about, Patrick? The street waffle may be soft if it is heated by your coffee. Yes. Yeah. Robert Dino, thank you. Yes, that's what I'm doing. Yes. There we go. There's the street waffle heated by my coffee. So there we go. So this is the call we're going to make. Okay. And that's the reason why we need to URL encode it, because the topic name is actually part of the URL, part of the path. Okay. That's why. Okay. So let's go back. I think the most interesting thing here is, what is the payload? What does the body of this event message look like? Okay, and it looks like the stuff that's in red here. So I'm using YQ. Oh, by the way, Helmut, was it? Yeah, it was you, Helmut, wasn't it? You contributed a modification to the repo to bump the YQ version up to 4.5.0. We're installing now. So let's have a look. YQ version. It's now 4.5.0. So what I had to do in our emit is, of course, as we know, also use the new YQE, not YQ read, so YQ eval, to evaluate this particular YAML. Okay. Now, that's a pro move. Yes, thank you, Robertino. That is a pro move on my coffee. Yes. I learned from I think I learned from you lot. So I learned from the best. I think I learned that from when I came over. So let's stare at this for a second. Look at this. This namespace here. I didn't make that up. Where did that come from? Let's have a look. api.sap.com. Log on. I can't remember where it was actually, so let's find it together. Events. So this API hub is not just about APIs. It's about events, right? And if we click on events, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Business Events, looks like it could be that, right? Sales order. I'm honestly just looking in the dark here. Oh, there we go. There it is. This is what we saw in the keynote. I remember this now. Changed, created, deleted. So I click on created. There we go. Post to SAP S4B. And what does the event payload look like? It looks like this. Here's the schema, right? Example value. There we go. Spec version, type, source, subject. Let's make it a bit bigger. Source, subject, ID, time, data content, type, and data, sales order. So we pass the ID of the sales order in this payload that is specifically for signifying the fact that a sales order has been created. This is an S4HANA event, and we throw it up into the air. Okay, so Leo, in Germany, I can only get the standard Stroopwafels, not the good ones from Holland. Yes, this is a good one from Holland, because somebody very kindly sent me that. Thank you, Wim. Yeah, these are bigger. Yeah, these are bigger. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got the type, the spec version, the source, the ID, the time, the data content, and the data. That's exactly, basically, I looked at that. then I wrote that. The only reason I didn't write that as JSON, because I hate writing JSON because it's so fiddly and it's so easy to get wrong with all the quotes and the colons and the commas and everything. I prefer to write JSON, YAML. All I do is say, evaluate this YAML, E, and turn it into JSON for me. Get the computer to do the hard work. Okay, so we build up the payload, and that's it. So why don't we, as it's already 8:25, why don't we do that now? Let's go back here. Requirements, yeah, we need all these things here, which we've already got. Okay, these tools, because we're running in the Business Application Studio. If you're not using the App Studio, I think Helmut, you're using your command line and VS Code, which is cool. So you may have had to install UUIDgen, JQ, maybe YQ, whatever, but that's cool, right? So let's do it. We'll just pick SalesOrder 1, right? Rather than go and digress and have a look at the actual SalesOrder API, which we looked at in a previous episode of this this little series, let's just run it, okay? So here are all the instructions. So let's do that. So let's run it down to the check event, right? And it says here about the encoded /. So let's bring that up here. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. /, because it's this emit. Oh, I'm in the wrong directory. S4HANA event. The emit is in this directory, but if I say emit, of course, it's command not found because the current directory is not in the path, and that's normal. So I'll say in this path here, sorry, in this directory here, emit. And because of that little, where is it down there? Because of that little sort of check here, it's saying give us a sales order. So emit 1. There we go. Publishing sales order created. Event for 1, publish message to topic sales order created. And that's it. Now, of course, that's not very satisfactory because we can't really see it. And I was looking at a way to sort of say this in the documentation, and I came across this amazing Russian phrase. And I verified it with my friend and colleague Vitaly as well. What does that say? Dobrye no proberye. Trust but verify. Okay, so yeah, we trust that this has worked, but let's verify it. Okay, so now we're going to go through the rest of this particular README here to actually see if we can see that event message that we've just raised to the topic sales order created. We want to see it, right? We want to see it with our own eyes. What we're going to do is described here, so you can go back and follow this yourself afterwards. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to bring into the dev space this repo. This repo was from a previous series diving into messaging on SAP Cloud Platform, right? On BTP now, of course, it's called. So let's grab the Git URL and let's go in here. Now, I'm not going to change the workspace. The workspace in App Studio is still pointing to the TechEd Developer Keynote repository. That's fine. I just want to work on the command line here. So I'm going to go back up. In fact, let's go to my home. And what have we got in here? We've got bin, which is where we've got our sort of locally installed tools. I've just this morning installed GitHub, the GitHub CLI, but we won't use that now. We'll just use Git clone. We've got our node modules, which are the globally installed things, and we've also got our projects directory, which is where basically when we clone a directory, when we do the use the wizards in App Studio, and it sort of does it all for us. That's where things end up. So that's why we've got the TechEd 2020 Developer Keynote directory, which is the one that's in our workspace. It's in projects. So now we'll say git clone the cloud messaging hands-on-SAP-dev repo. And now we've got in, I did it in the wrong place, didn't I? Okay, let's move cloud into projects. There we go. So let's go into projects now. So now we've still got the TechEd 2020 Developer Keynote open in our dev space, in the Explorer, in the workspace there. But we've also got some more tools, which is cool, right? So what we're going to do is going to create a queue, random queue, and we're going to then subscribe that queue to the topic sales order created. Then we're going to do another emit and then see if that queue then receives, a message in it. So we can see the message, and then we'll try and consume that message manually, as it were, not through a webhook subscription, but just consume it using the API. Should we do that? Yeah, half an hour, perfect. I was sort of slightly rushing because I wanted to get to, get to the stage where we can actually now start messing around with the important parts of this, which is, downstream of the emitter. Okay, so what are we doing? What are we doing? What do we want to do? Why don't we go into the, let's tell you what we'll do. We'll open up a new terminal, and let's have that there. So down here, I'm in the cloud messaging, and up there, I'm in the S/4HANA events. And let's get rid of all these. I don't think we need any of these at the moment. So we've just got the two terminals, right? And get rid of that as well. How nice is that? Okay, cool. So down here in the bottom terminal, we're sort of doing the cloud messaging hands-on SAP Dev repo stuff, and in the top terminal, we're doing the sort of the developer Keynote repository stuff. So where we'll run the emit, right? So why don't we say, let's make sure we're logged on. Actually, see if we're connected. Yes, we're connected to my trial Cloud Foundry organization and dev space from before. We've got the proxy app, which we covered last time. Yeah, that's the sandbox component running in Cloud Foundry. And from an even earlier episode in this series, when we set up the actual message bus itself, we created a webhook, which basically, we could then subscribe to queues, and then the webhook would show us what came down. So we might be able to use that. Okay, but anyway, we're authenticated with Cloud Foundry. What do we want to do? We want to say management. Let's run management. Okay, and management is a little script. Okay, very, very similar. That also sources the settings and local utils, and it also sources management API specific functions that I've created. Okay, where are we? Here. Oops, sorry. There we go. And management.sh, that is the set of functions here that relate directly on a one-to-one basis with the actual API endpoints of the management API. Okay. Samueli, wow, Business Application Studio, split terminal horizontal, VS Code split vertical. We can split, we can drag and drop these things here. We can go dong, dong, dong. There we go. Look at that. Check it out. Is that preferable? Should we have a vertical split here down the middle? Let's do that instead. Yeah, why not? Okay, so we can see we've got the create update queue function, we've got a delete queue function, we get a get queue function, and all these different things here. So those relate directly to the management API of the enterprise messaging service. Okay, on the business technology platform. So if we run management on its own, it'll just print out for us the list of possible functions we can call, possible actions we can do, which basically directly relate to the functions we just looked at, and these in turn relate directly to the API endpoints of the management API. So we can say /management list queues. Okay, and that's also going to use in our what's it called, in our local utils.sh library. It's going to use that service key retrieval caching mechanism to go and get the service key, to go and do the OAuth dance, client credentials OAuth dance, to get a bearer token that it can use to authenticate these calls. Okay, double wow, yes, double wow. Okay, so we can see, I think this was from last time or the time before, we've got a queue hands-on SAP Dev. In fact, if we go into where are we here? .file scripts. No, we want to be in the messaging. There we go. There. Is that up to date? I think it is. Yes. If we go to the graphing, anyone remember this? Go. This will be connected to the same Cloud Foundry organization and space. It's going to get a load of stuff, make a load of calls, hopefully. Oh, that's a bit small. Did I not... Kitty, iCat, help, please. Scale up. Ah, scale up. Okay, VI, go down there, scale up. Go. There we go. Look at that. Amazing. Graphics in a terminal. That is hopefully triple wow, right? For you Samuel and people. So we can see we've got a queue, hands on SAP. And that is the same as well as if we go to our HANA trial and we log into the cockpit and we go to the, where is it? It's the enterprise messaging service instance, which is over here. You know, we're doing this through the cockpit instead. We can call up the, for our enterprise messaging instance, we can call it this dashboard, which also people have seen before. Let's refresh that. Let's re-authenticate. Hopefully that should tell us. And we can see there it is, the hands on SAP. So basically, where is it? That there is telling exactly the same as that there, and exactly the same as that there. Okay, so we're just looking at the single hands on SAP dev queue in our message bus. So let's create a new one. Okay, but we could use the hands on SAP. Let's create a new queue. So you like horizontal split? Let's do a horizontal split then. Let's drag it like that. Is that better? Okay, cool. So management. So think of the management. What's the difference between the management API and the messaging API? Management API is more to do with, you know, the basic building blocks, queues and queue subscriptions. And the messaging API is all about actually using those building blocks to send messages and receive, you know, consume messages and publish messages to topics and things and to queues, right? So we build things with the management API and we then use those things with the messaging API. That's a really vague way of putting it, but you know, it helps my brain to remember that. So create queue. What should we call it? Give me a name. Triple wow. Let's call the queue triple wow. Triple wow. Create. Oh, what? Oh, yes. I didn't even look at the thing. Management. The API endpoint to create a queue is the same as the API endpoint to update a queue. So you can imagine that it's almost like idempotent. You know, you create this queue or update this queue. Here's the queue. Here's the queue. Here's the queue. So actually, the endpoint is actually the API path is actually create update queue. So I got that wrong. Here we go. Let's do that again. Create update queue. Triple wow. Right. Let's clear screen. Run that. And there we go. Okay. So now, hopefully, if we look in, for example, here, let's actually turn the auto update on, which is just behind my head. I'm sort of getting more conscious of the auto update thing, which is I've just turned this thing on there. Right. Auto update. Put that back again. There it is, triple wow. So we've got the triple wow queue, but we don't have any queue subscriptions. Okay, you subscribe a queue to a topic name or pattern, right? So we can, you know, a short name, you know, or a complete name of a topic. Some coffee. All okay so far? Are we all good? All good? Let me know if this is making sense, and I'll have another. Oh, I see the stroop waffle's gone soft again. It's gone hard again. Put it on my coffee now. It's going to fall in. I'm going to just balance it just very gently. Oh, it's working. So let's go back here, and now if we have a look there, we can see in the management API, we've also got the possibility. I mean, we could do everything we do on the command line. Of course, we can do here in this sort of, what's it called? Like this messaging administration UI. We could hit create, right? Create queue subscription. But that's boring, right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to do it so that we can automate things, right? Topic, perfect, Pankaj. Well, okay, we'll create. Okay, we'll tell you what we'll do. Pankaj, we'll create a topic. Johan, thank you. So, Johan, do you mean that the fact that the topic name is going to be Stroopwafel makes 100% sense? Or this is making sense? Hopefully this is making sense. Well, we won't create the topic name as Stroopwafel, because what we want to do is we want to subscribe this triple wow queue to the sales order created topic. Okay, so that when we do the emit again, we should get a message in this queue. So let's do that. But it's a good suggestion, Pankaj. Maybe if we get time, we'll do another topic of Stroopwafel. So if we say management create update queue subscription, and notice again the same pattern as in, you know, a queue or a queue subscription, you create it or update it, it's the same thing. Now, if I just hit enter, it's at least got a little thing to say, you didn't give me the queue. I want a queue and I want a topic. Okay, so I'm going to say the queue, what's the queue called? Well, in fact, let's have a look at the queue. Management list queues. Make that a little bit bigger. We got our triple wow queue. See, it's a list there with the square brackets, and each queue is like a little map here. And we got the hands-on SAP Dev queue. So the queue name is triple wow. So if we say create update queue subscription triple wow, and we want to subscribe it to sales order created. And now the reason I'm not sort of URL encoding it with %2f here is because I think in the management script, I use the URL encode. I've got a URL encoded. Yeah, in fact, let me explain. There we go. Using the SAP Business Application Studio, we've got an App Studio setup script, which will also install the npm package globally, URL decode encode CLI, which gives you a URL encode command line thing. Okay, that's what I'm using. So let's clear screen and run that. There we go. So now, hopefully, in fact, let's confirm, you know, trust but verify. If we turn on the auto refresh, the little switch just behind my head, I think, or is it just below my head? We can see now we've not only got two queues, but one of the queues, triple wow, is now subscribed to the sales order / created pattern. When I was working with the rest of my developer advocate colleagues, building the developer keynote and everything, we experimented with creating a queue and subscribing that to a pattern, sales order / asterisk, and you know, we sent different messages, and it all worked, right? But anyway, we're just going to do it to this particular topic name, an absolute name. Now, let's go back to the console here, and now if we say management list queues again, we can see that in the triple wow queue, we got no messages, right? And that also is confirmed here in the queue here, no messages. So the big moment, I guess, is, and of course, you can imagine when we get to it, you know, in a couple of weeks' time, when we start looking at the brain component, which is doing all of this stuff. It's doing it using CAP, which is awesome, right? And it's super easy. The CAP service that is brain is doing all this, but it's doing it super simple, almost declaratively. Well, it is declarative because the awesome CAP folks have made it super easy to get your CAP application to connect to a message bus and subscribe to things, right? Thanks, Samuele. So we've got no messages. So now up here, shall we emit? Well, let's emit two. It doesn't really matter what the actual sales order ID is in this case, because we're not going to try and retrieve that sales order, so it doesn't matter whether sales order 2 exists or not. Emit. So we've published, so what have we done? We've published a message event to the bus, to the topic, not to a queue, but to a topic. So not to a specific point, you know, not to an absolute point, but like to a relative point, as in to this topic, sales order created. Let's go back down here and run the management list queues again, hopefully. There we go. So before the I don't know why it's in a different order. That's interesting. So first of all, the triple wow had 0 in the message count, but now triple wow has got 1 in the message count, which is cool. Now, is that reflected here as well? It is. Now, there's nobody else hopefully messing around with this particular instance. That was us, right? Let's just do one more, just to make sure. Let's publish one to, let's publish another one with sales order number 3. Okay, that should change. We've now got 2 messages, and of course, if we run that again, we should now have 2 in there. There we go. Message count. Queue size in bytes, 588, right? Half a K. Half a K's worth. Now, to me, that feels like about twice that, maybe a bit more. So far so good. We can see the sort of indirect, well, we can see the direct evidence that there are messages in the queue that's been subscribed to the topic to which we've published a message. An S/4HANA Cloud sales order created message. So let's go back, and the final thing we're going to do is consume it. Okay, now publish another message, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. So this is also handled or described in the README, so you can go back at your leisure and everything. So let's have a look. Now, we've been using, don't need that anymore. We've been using the management script and the management API. But now we're really talking about, because we've been constructing building blocks. We've been creating a queue, and we've been attaching a queue to that topic name. But now we're really talking about using the queue and using the topic. Now, the event, the emit thing, that's been using the messaging API. And now we're going to use the messaging API. Messaging. What does that give us? It gives us a whole completely different set of API endpoints. Okay. And again, just to confirm, where is it? API. There, messaging API. Okay. So the messaging API lets us do all sorts of things. Publish message to a queue, publish message to a topic, consume message from a queue. Ooh, that's one we want, right? We want to consume a message from a queue. We can't consume a message from a topic. Our consumption, our consumption is queue related. We can subscribe a webhook to a queue to automatically, be given messages that appear on the queue, right? We did that before. Now we're going to say one thing. Yeah, give me a message. So let's try that. And you can see here, these texts here, consume message from a queue. If you look at all of them, basically they relate to all these things here. Consume message from queue. That's the one we want to do now, right? So if we say messaging, consume message from queue, bearing in mind we've got 2 messages in there for now. What's going to happen? Well, first of all, it's going to say, you need to give me a queue name. Duh. So, consume message from queue. The queue name is what? Triple wow? Triple wow. Let's see what happens. Let's clear the screen. There it is. There's the message. And we did... Yes, we did. I thought it was sales order 1. Yes. Yeah, okay. We did originally, right at the start, we called emit with sales order 1. But that was at the stage where we didn't have a queue subscribed to the sales order created topic. So that message just, floated off into nowhere because nobody was interested in it. Nobody was interested in that message event published to the sales order created topic because there was no queue subscribed at the time to the sales order created topic, right? So that was sales order number 1. Then we created the queue triple wow, and then we subscribed it to the topic sales order created, and then we ran emit again with sales order 2. That's why the first one we're seeing here is 2. That's quite nicely formatted, isn't it? To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. I can't remember what I did. But let's just have a look now. Management list. In fact, there's list queues, plural, but also get queue, which which is quite nice. List basically implies a list, an array, but get implies a single thing, right? WC of the payload. Do you mean like WC as in the command WC? We could do that, couldn't we? We'll do that on the next one. In fact, maybe what we'll do is the I think that's what you mean, Samuel. Just to count the bytes, right? What we'll do is when we run the messaging consume message from queue triple wow again, instead of piping that to the command line, well, in fact, we'll use T, I think. Oh no, we'll just pipe it to a file and then do things with the file, right? So we can say management get queue triple wow, and that now says there's not 2 messages in there anymore. There's only 1, and that should be confirmed with that one there, right? 1 message, yeah. And the queue size in bytes has gone down from 500 and whatever it was to 294. Okay, makes sort of sense. So let's do that again, shall we? Consume message from queue triple wow, and we'll put it into a file called Samueli. Okay. There it is. Consume message from queue. Okay, that's the sort of the message log. So let's get rid of that. 295. What did it say? What did the thing say? I can't remember. Where's it's sort of not quite. What was it? 200. It was 294. Yeah. Okay. It was 294, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it said 209. Well, let's do another one. Let's do another one. 4. Management where was the get queues? Get queue triple wow. 294. We're getting 295 because I think there's a new line in there. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now let's just have a quick look at the management. Let's have a look at it on the browser, so we can sort of have it a little bit bigger. I don't want to sort of go through a rigmarole of changing the workspace, and then because I want to keep the workspace pointing to the TechEd repo. So there's the management script. Okay, and all this does is it goes through here and checks the command, you enter, and then actually invokes it, right? But these commands are all stored in messaging. Same thing. Messaging does the same thing, right? Messaging, blah, 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 and then call a command. So they're all stored in messaging.sh. So what was it called? Consume message from queue. There we go. Consume message from queue. What this does is it expects a queue name, okay, and says, give me a queue name if we don't give it one. And then we just make an API call to the messaging API. What's the messaging API? URI, which is, where is it? URI. Oh, that's from, where is it? Messaging. Let's open a messaging up here. The local, the messaging. What's going on? Where's the URI defined? URI. What? URI. Okay. Yes. Of course. The URI, we don't know. We can't assume. And of course, this is like the absolute part of the URI, the actual product scheme, HTTPS, and the domain name, some domain name .ondemand.com, blah, 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 etc. Right? So we can't sort of assume that. We can't hard code that. We get that from the details when we get the OAuth token, okay, from the service key. I'm not going to show you the service key because then you'll see the client ID and the client secret as well. But that's the URIs from the service key, of course, right? Yeah, what a fool, DJ. And let's go and look at the messaging.sh. Go back to the consume thing. Where was it? Consume message from queue. So it's whatever is in the service key, effectively, for the REST, messaging REST thing here. Remember, when we set up the enterprise messaging service instance, we specified a couple of parameters, didn't we? Let's have a look at that. Go back here. Let's just make sure we understand that. Set up a message bus. Here we go. Look, when we set it up, we saw the messaging API via REST and the management API via REST. So we had these options there. That's why we can call these APIs via HTTP, right? So then all we do is we authorize, we authenticate with the token that we've got through the OAuth dance with the client credentials, which the local utils does for us, which we've written about before. We send the quality of service, which we've covered again earlier. Quality of service is whatever it is. I think it's 0, as in, we don't care. And then the base path is messaging REST v1, which was what we saw in all of the API endpoints, right? So that's the base path. Go back again. Base path, queues. So this is now specifically the consume message from queue API. Queues, queue name, messages, consumption. And we make a post request because it's destructive. Well, what is destructive? As in, it has a side effect on the server side. So we can't do a get because it changes something on the server. And of course, that would be no from an HTTP perspective, from a representational state transfer perspective. So post is the right method here. And that's it. We have covered the emitter, haven't we? So what is going to be happening when we then finally, let's go back to the final thing here, when we go back to cover the brain, right? We've done this, boing, and this blue arrow. And instead of looking at the brain and getting the brain to consume the message, we've just done it manually using the APIs, done it from the ground up. So we understand what's going on. When we come to the brain component, which is, when are we going to do that? Well, I'll have to reshuffle the quick start because, of course, we're going to do the GitHub Actions next week, aren't we? But everything we've done just now is done by the brain component, i.e. it creates a queue, it subscribes the queue to the sales order created topic, it does that automatically for us, it's beautiful, right? And then it handles the incoming messages. Just like, using a little function that you define. Just like you would handle an incoming, OData post operation. Did I say OData post operation? OData read operation or update operation or whatever. So anyway, I can't believe it's 8:58. Was that okay? I hope it was okay. Let me know. And yes, we'll do the GitHub Actions episode next week. I'll keep it within the context of this series, because we are using GitHub Actions in this series, right, in this repo. So thanks so much for joining. Have a great rest of Friday. We're finishing on time for a change, which is good. And yeah, thanks for, time flies when we are having fun. And I've still got a little bit of Stroopwafel left. Thanks, Robertino. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.